Hello, I'm Anita Ann Thomas. Welcome back to today's session, Chinese Theatre or Theatre of China. Chinese theatre or Theatre of China refers to the theatrical movements that emerged in China. There is little evidence on the emergence of distinct Chinese drama, but critics argue that it encloses a period of more than 25 centuries. The reason cited for this opinion is varied. Some writers authenticate the pantomimic dances for religious worship or military jubilation, which were presented to music accompaniment, a dramatic production. The others consider festival rites united with the speech in dramatic situation as the initial stage in the history of performance. Similarly, sects of theatre enthusiasts believe drama is studied on the assumption of the aesthetic. The anthropologists identify the coming together of physical traits, language, and emotional agreement inherent in primitive customs as a dramatic performance. Like other art forms, a nation's drama is a development informed by civic and national events and ceremony. Chinese drama does neither exhibit a definitely marked inception nor a conclusion for early scribe to have noted, even in a country of remarkable literary antiquity and habit of taking notations. Chinese drama has developed through assimilation by the patronage of succeeding emperors and the corresponding adaptation of the Chinese people to the evolving changes. Historians state that music existed in China in BC 5400 of China's second dynasty and its golden age of BC 2205 to 1766. We read that religious worship was accompanied by music and dances that represented the occupations of the people, such as ploughing and harvesting, war and peace. These dances illustrated the sensation of work, joy, fatigue, and content. The Chow ritual classic, written several centuries before the time of Confucius, states that 6 ceremonial dances were in the vogue at that early period. In the first, wands with whole feathers were waved in the worship of the spirits of agriculture. In second, wands with divided feathers were used in the ancestral temples. In the third, feather caps were worn on the head and the upper garments were adorned with kingfisher feathers in blessing the 4 quarters of the realm. In the fourth, yak tails were used in ceremonial for the promotion of harmony, and in the fifth, shields were manipulated to celebrate military merit. In the sixth, the bare hands were waved in homage to stars and constellations. But the ceremonial dances in vogue aimed to celebrate and partly to portray civil and military accomplishment. Royal music was of 2 kinds. If civil merit was to be celebrated, the posturers grasped feather wands. If it was a martial prowess, they grasped vermilion shields and jade embossed battle axes. Jade signified virtue and the shields benevolence to inculcate clemency to those defeated. The Chinese dramatic tradition. It was Émile Guimet who reasoned that Chinese theatre was established by an emperor about BC 700 and that the writers of that century applied themselves to development of a poetic drama. Any literature which may have existed at the time must have been destroyed by succeeding rulers. We find a more definite drama chronicle in the 8th century. The emperor Xuanzong, or Ming Huang as he is commonly called from a posthumous title, established a school in the gardens of his palace to teach young men and women the arts of dancing and music, and probably chose his court entertainers from this group. Many actors of today associate themselves with this early imperial school and call themselves members of the College of the Pear Orchid. Ming Huang, who is said to have acted upon his own stage, is today's patron saint of all actors, and a statue with incense burning before it may be seen in Chinese green rooms. Plays during this century, which is sometimes called the first period of Chinese drama, focused on extraordinary themes and anticipated the present heroic drama. It is probable that interest in drama did not extend further than the imperial court until the 13th century. During the Yuan dynasty, founded in 1280 by the Mongol warrior Kublai Khan, drama as it now exists in China appears to have slipped into being quietly, and as far as most historians of the subject are concerned, is an established fact only from this time. What actually happened in the 13th century was that divisions of subject and character were fixed and an enduring literature was produced. There are references to theatrical entertainments in China as early as the Shang dynasty, which often involved happiness, mimes, and acrobatic displays. While tracing the history of theatre of China, one can find a wide range of play types performed. One of the types is shadow play, which sprang during the dynasty of Empress Ling. Shadow puppetry emerged as a recognized form of theatre in China. There are two distinct forms of shadow puppetry, Pekingese Northern and Cantonese Southern. The two styles were differentiated by the method of making the puppets and the positioning of the rods on the puppets as opposed to the type of play performed by the puppets. Both styles generally performed plays depicting great adventure and fantasy. Rarely was this very stylized form of theatre used for political propaganda. Cantonese shadow puppets were the larger of the two. They were built using thick leather, which created more substantial shadows. During the Song dynasty, there were many popular plays involving acrobatics and music. These developed in the Yuan dynasty into a more sophisticated form known as Zaju, with a 4 or 5 act structure. Yuan drama spread across China and diversified into numerous regional forms, the best known of which is Beijing opera, which is still popular today. Another notable drama type is xiangsheng. It is a certain traditional Chinese comedic performance in the forms of monologue or dialogue. The Chinese theatrical stage. The ideal Chinese stage stressed that each play should have a moral. An article in the Penal Code of Empire insisted that every dramatist conceived a virtuous aim. Play text had both prose and verse. The best plots satisfy the rule, unity of action, and many other plays observe the unities of time and place, although the Chinese knew nothing of Aristotle's theories concerning the elements of structure. Many of the plays are short, a half hour or so in length, and the longer ones are divided into acts and scenes. It is a custom in many places to give a series of short plays without any intermission, so that a performance sometimes lasts for several hours. In such a case, of course, there is no attempt at maintaining a single unified action. The second play may take up the career of a new hero after the first one has been killed or defeated, thus carrying the spectator over long distances and through many years. In order to keep the thread of the action clear, important characters pose occasionally to announce their names and the lineage that they belong to. A singular feature of the Chinese play is the singing actor, to whom the most poetic and beautiful passages are given. Like the Greek chorus, he sometimes repeats the chief events of the play and moralizes upon the conduct of the characters. The Chinese stage usually has little scenery, no curtain, flies or wings. The costumes of the actors are gorgeous and costly, of brocade or heavy silk, often embroidered and set with semi-precious stones. If, in course of a performance, an actor has to travel to another country, he goes through the motions of cantering of a few paces, cracks his whip, dismounts and announces, "I have now reached the country of so-and-so." A property man, in ordinary dress, regarded as honorably invisible by everybody, remains on the stage all the time, providing articles needed by the actors. The latter have their tea on the stage, and dead men rise and walk away when their scene is ended. The player does not stand high in the social scale in China. Neither he nor his descendants for 3 generations may compete in the public examinations for civil office. Since the 18th century, women have been forbidden to appear on stage, and women's parts are taken by young men. The idea of a prompter is never recommended in Chinese drama. Chinese drama in Europe. Chinese drama was acknowledged and accepted in Europe only after the 18th century. In 1735, a Jesuit priest named Joseph Primaire brought to France the translation of an old work called The Little Orphan of the House of Chow. The play from which he had made his translation was of the 14th century, and it was taken from a still earlier piece. A celebrated play, reprinted in countless versions, called The Story of the Magic Lute, is also from the 14th century. The Sorrows of Han, whose plot resembles the story of Esther of biblical fame, is said to date from before the Christian era. The emperor in this play was a historical character living about 42 BC. The story is plainly designed to expose the evil consequences of luxury and self-indulgence and the worthlessness of monarchs who neglect the welfare of their people. It is in 5 acts, contains many beautiful songs, and is a great national favorite. Characteristics of Chinese drama. Decoration is usually considered as an external of the drama. In China, however, it has so profoundly filtered into the dramatic spectacle through the national disposition of symbolism, in all the seductive fantasy of form and color to which the symbol lends itself, that decoration has become an essential as well as a sentient component of the classical theatre. And this occurs in a country where the stage has no scenery. Such apparent anachronism is explained by Chinese that as their theatre is not imitative, landscape or an interior is created by an audience by suggestion, by emotion, and it must be confessed of the theatre habitué of today by drama tradition. To the Chinese, scenery is silly and unnecessary bother. A court event which may have taken place centuries ago in a magnificent entourage will be reproduced in the playhouse with every detail of costume and mode of speech carefully exact, but without scenery and with almost no stage furnishing. The imagination that has created in Chinese art so much chimerical humor of animal and flower and fetish can find a river where there is no water and a mountain where none is painted. Chinese dress was designed for ceremonial purposes. It is a cloak in which one hides any condition of spiritual or physical poverty. It also presents men to the world as they wish to appear. It is not difficult to realize why it is so magnificent and costly. The traditional stage dress of even a beggar is a silk coat of a gay check design. There is a tradition too to be followed in barbarian's dress, and he must wear a bit of fur about his throat no matter what the temperature is. The necessity of accuracy in stage dress means that an actor's wardrobe may be so expensive that he may often hire than own it. Candles, lamps, or in a few permanent theatres, electric lights illumine the stage, but lighting for artistic purpose is not included in the Chinese theory of dramatic art. The uniqueness of Chinese theatre. The Chinese differ from many other Eastern people in that they understand the ancient symbols, woven or painted or cut into their decoration, and continue to utilize them to tell a story or reflect an early superstition, to protect, to ridicule, to praise. The 12 ornaments should not be ignored in any consideration of Chinese design. They appear alone or in grouped decoration and frequently are embroidered upon robes of ceremony worn in the theatre both by actors and the audience. These 12 ornaments are: sun in a bank of clouds with a 3-legged bird inside the disc, moon containing a hare and a mortar and pestle, constellation of stars connected by straight lines, mountains, 5-clawed dragon, flowery fowls to variegated peasants, temple vessels used in ancestral worship, aquatic grasses in sprays, fire in flaming scrolls, millet grains grouped in medallions, few axe or weapon of warrior, and few symbol of distinction or happiness. Symbols with confusing frequency, vary in name to accord with three doctrines of China, they may differ even in form among Manchus of the north or the Chinese of the south. But however symbol and image may change in outline, their presence and influence is universal. Scroll and animal and flower, notes and leaves, claws, scaly tails, fangs and squinting eyes depict fury, malice, cunning, goodness or wisdom. A dragon protects, a fox betrays, a squat old mandarin advises, a bit of golden scroll blesses, monsters of lacquer or bronze or jade, vermilion nocturnal blue or the yellow of old faience, deities of the house, the street, the tomb, the temple, the theatre, speak the secrets of violet city and confess in contortions and audacious prostrations of the superstitions of the Chinese, to link dynasties and repeat the imponderable fantasy and the bland cruelties of more than 2000 years. Chinese dramatists. Chinese dramatist, novelist and critic Gao Xingjian was born on January 4, 1940 in Guangzhou, Jiangxi province in eastern China. His father was a bank official and his mother an amateur actress who encouraged Gao's interest in theatre as well as art and music. Educated in the schools of People's Republic, Gao grew up under the communist regime that took over China in 1949. He worked as a French translator for the foreign language journal China Reconstructs. During the Cultural Revolution from 1966 to 76, Gao was persecuted as an intellectual and, fearing for his safety, burned his suitcase full of manuscripts including novels, plays and essays. This sacrifice, however, did not save him and he was sent to a re-education camp where he endured nearly 6 years of hard labor in the fields. Years later, in 1981, shortly after becoming a resident playwright with the Beijing People's Art Theatre, the publication of A Preliminary Discussion of the Art of Modern Fiction, Xiandi Xiashuo Jiqiao Shutan, led to a heated controversy about spiritual pollution and Gao was put under surveillance by the government. Some of the notable plays by Gao include Absolute Signal 1982, Wilderness Man 1984, Between Life and Death 1991, Dialogue and Rebuttal 1992, Nocturnal Wanderer 1993 and Weekend Quartet 1995. Structural, thematic specificities and philosophical insights. The field of Chinese playwright is broad as he has a choice of historical or contemporary affairs from which to draw his plots. He may portray parental or filial goodness, national vices and weakness, official corruption, difficulties and delays connected with the law courts, and the absurdities into which religious fanatics are drawn. One can rarely find love stories in Chinese drama. National customs such as arranging marriage through an agent and determining official rank by means of examination are inexhaustible sources of comic action. They ridicule avarice. There are burlesques on Buddhism, a religion to which nearly 4/5 of the nation subscribe. No class or section is exempt from the laughter of the stage. As opposed to the Greek plays where gods often intervene, in Chinese plays the emperor often saves the heroine from an unfortunate marriage or an innocent victim from death. It is technically illegal, however, to represent the person of the emperor on the stage. One of the most revolting features of Chinese drama is the frequent representation of scenes of violence. Suffering and death by starvation, drowning, poison, flogging, hanging and torture have been exhibited for centuries, and it is a distinction of many a famous actor that he can most vividly depict the intense sufferings incident to these punishments. Suicide is a custom honored in China and therefore often seen on the stage. when an actor is about to kill himself. He sings his long chant before committing the deed, and whatever disasters occur, the end must be happy. In general, Chinese drama is comparatively weak in the logical development of plot and in the delineation of character. Greater stress, however, is laid upon verbal decoration and poetic ornament. There are pleasing contrasts between parallel scenes and parallelism of language, as in the Psalms. In many passages, a single word is played with compounds being made upon the root, so that a speech in praise of a flower or of a royal person becomes an intricate linguistic labyrinth like an English acrostic or anagram. Critical reception. One does not begin to understand the Chinese superstitions inherited from Buddhist principles frequently, denude the stage of mortality and the playwright's inspiration for extravaganza. He may create a mise-en-scene in terrestrial immortality and people it with nostalgic gods and provoking genii, and find it more absorbing to an audience than the type of play that transpires on an earthly plane and presents the principles of morality that Confucius meditated upon. The playwright may even unite the two and add a theme from Taoism in his high romance. But when fact and fancy meet and have been mingled in such heterogeneous drama as this, even a Chinese is sometimes unable to decide whether a play that turns on the achievements of a general and attendant genie or of an emperor and certain immortals is, except for the genie and the immortals, all reality, or except the general and the emperor, all supposition. Upon such misleading and rich occasion, the general may be as foreign to battle lists as the genii are to birth registry, for when a Chinese dramatist most clearly limns the unlikely, he may be the most ardently surrounded with every ramification of the actual. The most common form of Buddhist drama is the fantasia or the buffoonery of deity and demon symbols through which Buddha is frequently worshipped. To add to the long list of mythological beings derived from the doctrinal sources are the idols of historic association, which have been defined for battle valor, for civic accomplishment. During the 12th century, King Tai Kung defied many soldiers, and in the 14th century, the first emperor of the Ming dynasty appointed a great number of city gods. It was then only a short step from a great man to a little idol, and ultimately to become both a household and a stage deity. There seems a god for every occasion and a dozen needs for his favor every day. In the Imperial Theatre in Peking, there are 3 stages, one above the other. The highest is for the gods, and middle space is for mortals, and the lowest plane receives the slain villain. Heaven above, the earth beneath, and the waters under the earth, with all that these planes may be supposed to control, appear to figure in dramatic performances and may even show during a single play. Such fantastic tradition of imagination and such uncircumscribed deification baffle the barbarian outsider, the non-Chinese spectator, and often may prevent him from accepting a stage performance, at least in the beginning, to understand the pleasure derived by the Chinese audience. But if he continues to study Chinese drama further, he will not fail to perceive the virtue and the attendant weaknesses of ancestor worship, of the belief in recurrent life, and the earned privileges of another existence which govern and satisfy the great majority of the Chinese people. Any attempt to separate them might destroy the potency of both and would certainly rob the Chinese theatre of many of its most popular characters. Let's have a quick look into what we have discussed so far. Chinese theatre or theatre of China is a set of theatrical movements that emerged in China. Though the origin of Chinese theatre is unclear, critics speculate that the Chinese theatre has a history of 25 centuries. Like other art forms, a nation's drama is a development and is incepted by civic and national ceremony. Chinese drama can have had neither a definitely marked inception nor a conclusion for early scribe to have noted, even in a country of remarkable literary antiquity and the habit of notation. Chinese drama has been developed by assimilation, by the patronage of succeeding emperors and the corresponding conversion of Chinese people. Emperor Xuanzong, followed by the emperors of Yuan dynasty and the Shang dynasty, enabled the Chinese dramatic form to evolve, shape and flourish. The ideal Chinese state stressed that each play should have a moral. An article in the Penal Code of the Empire insisted that every dramatist conceived a virtuous aim. Play texts had both prose and verse. The best plots satisfy the rule, unity of action, and many other plays observe the unities of time and place, although the Chinese knew nothing of Aristotle's theories concerning the elements of structure. Chinese drama slowly had its influence in Europe in the 18th century. The Chinese differ from many other Eastern people in that they understand the ancient symbols woven or painted or cut into their decoration and continue to utilize them to tell a story or reflect an early superstition, to protect, to ridicule, to praise. Chinese dramatist, novelist and critic Gao Xingjian is noted for his enthusiastic contribution to Chinese theatre. Before we conclude, you may please try to answer a few questions. Trace the evolution of Chinese theatre from the Golden Age till the present. Analyze a Chinese drama and identify the characteristics of Chinese theatre. Discuss how religion played a crucial role in the progress of Chinese drama. Trace the evolution and contribution of Beijing people's art theatre has made to the larger Chinese theatre tradition. Elucidate the structure and form of a Chinese drama or play. References: Chinese Theatre by Fusion, Cambridge University Press, Cambridge. Chinese Theatre from its origins to the present day by Colin Mackerras, University of Hawaii Press, Honolulu. Chinese Theatre and the Actor in Performance by Joe Riley, Cambridge University Press, Cambridge. Hope this discussion on Theatre of China was enriching. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.